Kwame Nkrumah in 1965 said, it is easier to go from an airport in Africa to Europe or to America rather than going from an African country to another African country. This is 1965. I want you to listen to this, you guys. This is 1965. This is 60 years ago. And today in 2025, let's listen to these other African revolutionaries or visionaries who still see the same problem to this day.
A conversation we must have, and Brother Pojo, I don't know how we do this. We need to convene the leaders of this continent to talk about this visa story. This is a disaster. And let me just say the following. I struggle to understand why I can land in Paris, get on a train, and end up in Brussels. But if I want to move from Joburg to Gaborone, I must produce a passport. Who's the genius that came up with the scheme? You know, the Europeans are so quick to tell us that we can't bundle ourselves into a single block, but they've done it. When you publish this, you must just leave that part out because I'm busy raising money from them. You know, I don't know. They're going to say he's too radical. And so, even in my own native land of South Africa, the work as South Africans we must do is to conscientize each other about the continent. In my mind, and I was listening to your comments, ma'am, about the youth service, I'm seized to understand and failing to understand why we are not deliberately sending young people into other parts of the continent. Experience the culture, live with the people. To come here, to be here in this beautiful country, I had to go through Ethiopia. From Ethiopia, I was in Zambia. So I went South Africa, Zambia, Ethiopia, Nigeria. Between now and December, I'm going to be in about 8 different African countries. In that same time, it's going to be easier for me to do 5 different countries in Europe than it will be to do 2 different countries in Africa. Less layovers, less time. I'm sorry, can we just pause? Just one moment, pause the time. Who designed this nonsense?
How easy to interact with somebody who is miles away than somebody who is just some few meters away.
If, for example, I wanted to go to Mali to do a story, I would have to go through Togo, stay there for a few hours before going to Mali. Something that should have taken me less than 5 hours, for example, could take me almost a whole day to complete that journey. Whereas if I was going from Nigeria to London, I would be there in the afternoon in a few hours.
You tell me, guys, 60 years later, we're still having the very same problem. I don't understand. It's mind-boggling. Who is in charge in Africa? Who is the leader of Africa? We have no leadership. These have not been fixed 60 years ago, and we still have the same problem to this day. Same African countries, but we haven't smoothened out the processes of traveling between each other. Imagine in this day and age, Kwame Nkrumah wrote about it 60 years ago, warning and advising these leaders. We don't have leadership in Africa. You tell me, these heads of states that we have, in as much and how important it is for Africans to be able to move and trade between each other so that we can boost our economies. But no, they do not care. They do not care. Nothing is being done. Nothing is being improved on such a critical matter. But no, all they do is meet and have meetings and eat and go and sleep and spend taxpayers' money and spend our hard-earned money for doing nothing absolutely. They don't want to change. They don't want to improve anything. The growth of Africa is very, very slow. Change in Africa happens very, very, very slowly. Nothing much happens. It takes decades and decades for us to go anywhere near where Europe or America was 60 years ago. We are not even there yet, because we are very, very slow in implementing. No action is being taken on matters that need to be acted upon, such as this one. This is one of them. I don't understand what is wrong with our leadership. I fail to understand it. What do they benefit from this? They do not care. In as much as you and I understand that the unity of Africa is very, very important. We need Africa to come together to be able to be a significant force on the world platform. We cannot have a bargaining power in the world economies today. We don't have power as fragmented small countries that we are. But if anything, it's just you and I, the average citizen, who can have that conversation and talk about uniting Africa and uniting Africans. Those in power, because they are enjoying the status quo and they feel threatened by the uniting and coming together of states of Africa, they do not care about it. They don't promote it. You never hear about it. They don't talk about it because they feel threatened that what would happen. Well, how can we imagine this new Africa when they are not politicians of a certain country anymore? It's these nationalists who prevent Africa from uniting. In everything that you and I understand, and it is clear that, especially in the situation in the global economy that we have today, where only the big countries and the big nations, the powerful countries are dominating and manipulating other small countries and developing countries. We need to unite and come together as Africa in some shape or form, even if we do not rush into getting into forming the United States of Africa, but at least in some shape or form, we need to start building towards a united Africa. But you know who doesn't care? You know who doesn't promote it? Is the leadership. Is the current leadership, because they want to be presidents. They protecting themselves, and they do not face the challenges that you and I, as the average citizen, face. The unemployment, the poverty, the lack of opportunities, the poor healthcare systems, and the short life expectancies. They don't affect them because they are living a good life, squandering the resources of Africa. But you and I are poor and are struggling, and we understand that for Africa to become any better, we need to unite. We need to come together. I shall read a couple of statements by Kwame Nkrumah when he was addressing the challenges that face Africa, that makes it difficult for Africa to develop and grow. This was 1960. 1965, long back, 60 years ago, but we still have those same. The writings of Kwame Nkrumah couldn't become more alive today because it's still, Africa is still pretty much where it was 60 years ago. I shall read the first quote. In achieving independence, almost every new state of Africa has developed plans for industrialization and routed economic growth in order to improve its productive capacity and thereby raise the standards of living of its people. But while Africa remains divided, progress is bound to be painfully slow. And it has been painfully slow. It has been very, very slow, like I told you. We can't even get to where America and Europe was 60 years ago. We're struggling. We haven't even industrialized our economies. We are still in the infancy. We are not even doing much in order to strive towards making these adjustments, because Africa is too fragmented and it's too difficult for a small little Lesotho and a small little Swaziland to be able to develop ourselves, because we simply would not have enough resources to do so. Simply would not have the capacity to be able to negotiate better prices in the world, because it cannot compete with bigger countries. It cannot compete with bigger African states, because if Lesotho want to bargain for higher prices in its natural resources and minerals, then South Africa will remain offering those same resources at a lower price, and the investment in all those who need those natural resources will just go to that other country and leave Lesotho in desperate situation. But Africa, if Africa come together as one, there's so many advantages that we can speak about that will benefit each and every country in Africa to be able to rise up. I shall read another quote. The modern trend is towards larger economic and political units as interdependence of nation and people's growth. No country can be completely sufficient or afford to ignore political events outside its borders. Africa is clearly fragmented into two small, uneconomic and non-viable states, many of whom are having a very hard struggle to survive. As already noted, others have had to cling to old ties with former colonial rulers and have become easy prey to neo-colonialist forces. Africa is still fragmented into little non-viable economic states because we cannot compete on the world stage as small as we are, as small as a little Burundi, as small as a little Malawi cannot stand on the global stage and compete. But Africa needs to come together. But you know who is the major hurdle that we have? Is our leadership, is the current politicians that we have. These are the biggest hurdle that we have that is preventing this from happening. They do not talk about it. They do not preach it. They are proud nationalists because they are protecting their own interests, not you, the interests of you and me. That is why we end up seeing all these small countries struggling to protect themselves from terrorism, from any other sort of foreign manipulation and intervention, because they cannot protect themselves because they're just too small to do so. Somalia, Sudan is always chaos in the Sahel region. We end up running to the Americans, the very same people who are causing the chaos. We end up inviting them, trying to protect ourselves against any acts of terrorism because we cannot protect ourselves. Now we need the neo-colonial colonizer or our former colonizers to come and help us and come and protect us. We can never develop through that way by begging the colonizers to come help us. All they come and do is even make the situation worse and take our natural resources, as crude as they are, unprocessed, and we keep losing and losing. And Africa stays the same, struggling, poverty, no job opportunities, nothing. The average African citizen is struggling and suffering. At the end of the day, we end up running away because we don't have a leadership, because we don't have a leadership with a vision. And I shall read another quote from Kwame Nkrumah again. It is only when the artificial boundaries that divide her are broken down so as to provide for viable economic units and ultimately a single African unit that Africa will be able to develop industrially for her own sake and ultimately for the sake of the healthy world economy. A common currency is needed and communications of all kinds must be developed to allow the free flow of goods and services between countries in Africa. Yes, some little strides are being made by the African free trade area, but it's just simply not enough. There's no good communication between African states. Some of them have even gone as far as creating enmity. You know, Rwanda cannot speak to Congo. Congo cannot speak to so and so country. You know, in matters that involve the populations of Africa in migration and all those problems. South Africa cannot engage fully Zimbabwe on matters of immigration. All those things we need to come together and be able to start facilitating good communication and facilitating the movement of people, facilitating the movement of goods and services. But it's gonna come a time like now that Africans need to get up. Africans need to stand up and start doing something. We cannot let this go on and on and on and on. There's a big generational difference between our leadership and the youths of today. and the youth of today are well educated, and they are waking up and realizing what's going on in the world. But we have to do something. We cannot just let this go on and on. This leadership is not helping us. Is not. There should be more integration between the old leaders and the youth of today. There should be more youths in leadership today, because that's what we need. Because we assume we understand more about the current situation that we are in, the global economy that we are competing in, the new technologies and the advancements. But we are led by people who are ignorant, who don't know anything about those things, that are just leading our futures astray. And we as young people, we need to start doing something. We need to start acting, and lest our future is squandered by these people. Arise, Africa. Please subscribe, share, and let's grow the community so that we can start this movement, so that we can change Africa.